The door opened and my daughter-in-law walked in, still glowing from her afternoon out, phone in hand, shopping bag on her arm, already narrating something into her camera about her incredible haul. Then she stopped. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my hands folded and a cup of chamomile tea I had not touched. The ring light she had set up in the corner of the kitchen, which she had moved there 3 months ago without asking because the afternoon light was better, was still on, casting everything in that cool, even glow. Maybe that was why she saw it so clearly. The counter was empty. Everything she had spread across it over the past year, the product samples, the notebooks full of follow accounts, the 3 phone chargers, the little dish of spare ring light bulbs, was gone, boxed, stacked neatly by the back door. In the center of the counter sat a white envelope with her name, written across the front in my handwriting. She set her bag down slowly. "What is this?" she asked. "Open it," I said, "then we'll talk. Let me take you back to how we got here. My name is Nell Baxter. I am 66 years old, and I have lived in this house outside of Columbus, Ohio for 24 years. My husband and I paid it off in full 11 years ago. We were proud of that. He died 4 years ago. A heart attack on a Wednesday morning, quick and quiet, which I suppose was a mercy even when it did not feel like one. I spent 30 years as a hospice nurse. I learned how to hold something difficult without letting it break you. I learned how to stay in a room when everything inside you wanted to leave. That skill, as it turned out, would become both my greatest strength and my biggest mistake. I have one son. He is 38 years old, works in pharmaceutical sales, travels constantly, and has his father's ability to believe the best about the people he loves. I am proud of him even when that quality makes things harder than they need to be. He married his wife 2 years before all of this began. She was bright and quick and wore her ambition the way some women wear perfume. Not subtle, but not unpleasant either. She called me Nell from the very first visit, not Mrs. Baxter, and I liked that. She showed me her Instagram on their second times over, scrolling through it with genuine excitement. She wanted to build a lifestyle brand, she had ideas, she had energy, I respected that. At their wedding, she hugged me and whispered, "I've always wanted a mom who actually gets it." I held on to that sentence for a long time. About 14 months before the evening I am describing, my son called on a Sunday. His landlord had raised the rent sharply. Could they come stay with me, just for a while, just until they got their footing? He sounded careful, asking. He knew it was a lot. I said yes without hesitating. The first few weeks were easy. My daughter-in-law cooked big meals on weekends. My son fixed the kitchen faucet and the loose step on the porch. We watched movies on Friday nights, and she taught me how to use a streaming service I had been avoiding for years. It felt like family was supposed to feel. Then things started to shift. The way they always do, slowly at first, then all at once. She set up a filming space in the living room. Just temporary, she said, just until she found a better arrangement. 2 months later it was still there. She began keeping her products on the kitchen counter. The lower cabinet that had held my good mixing bowls since 1998 was now where she stored her branded packages. My mixing bowls were on a high shelf I needed a step stool to reach. She had friends over to film without letting me know. I came home one afternoon to find 4 women I had never met sitting on my sofa under ring lights, and one of them was using my good throw pillows as a backdrop prop. When I walked in, they all went quiet and looked at me with polite, confused smiles, like I had wandered into their space. She started using my gas card. The first time, her car was in the shop and she asked and I said yes. Then I noticed the charges appearing regularly on my statement. When I brought it up, she laughed a little. "Oh, I thought you knew. I figured you wouldn't mind." She had not asked again after the first time. When I mentioned these things to my son, he said she was still adjusting, that she worked hard, that she had a lot on her plate. He was home for 3 days between trips. He looked tired. I did not push. I stayed quiet. I had stayed quiet my whole life when it came to people I loved. I told myself it was patience. I told myself it was generosity. I was wrong on both counts. The day everything changed was a Tuesday in March. My daughter-in-law came into the kitchen in the early afternoon, camera bag on her shoulder, wearing the put-together look she saved for events. Her mother was outside in the driveway, engine running. They were going to a brand showcase downtown, one of those events where companies give influencers free products in exchange for coverage online. She was already scrolling her phone when she spoke to me. "There might be some packages and mail coming this afternoon. Can you sign for anything that shows up? And just put the business stuff in the office." She had started calling my guest room the office several months back. I had not corrected it. "Is there anything I should know about?" I asked. Nothing complicated. She grabbed her keys from the hook by the door, the hook I installed myself in 2003. You're home all day anyway, it's really not a big deal. You're home all day anyway. 30 years of hospice work. Nights I did not sleep because a patient was close and their family needed someone steady. Holidays spent in rooms smelling of antiseptic and dried flowers, holding the hands of strangers so they would not die alone. I retired because I had earned it. Because my body finally told me it was time, not because I had nothing to do. She did not mean it as a wound. I believe that, but it landed exactly where a wound would. The door closed, her mother honked once, the house went quiet. I sat at the kitchen table and did not eat the lunch I had made. I just sat there and I felt something settle inside me. Calm and final, the way a decision feels when you have been holding it a long time without knowing it. Then the mail came. 3 pieces, 2 for me. The third was addressed to something called Radiant House Creative LLC, care of Nell Baxter, at my address. I held that envelope for a long moment, my name, my address, a business I had never heard of. I went to the guest room. The door was unlocked. My daughter-in-law and I had never discussed whether she would lock it. There had never been a reason to. It was my house. I had not been in that room in months. I was not going in out of suspicion. I was looking for the instruction manual for my sewing cabinet, which had lived in the nightstand drawer since I bought the cabinet at an estate sale in 2009. The cabinet itself was gone. I later found it in the garage under a moving blanket. The room was a studio now. Ring light, camera tripod, clothing rack, shelves of products organized by color, everything precise and intentional, but on the desk was a stack of papers, and the top one had my name on it, and my address, in large formal type. It was a letter from a lending company. It began, "Thank you for your recent inquiry regarding a business line of credit. Application amount $30,000. I read it twice, then again. The business name was Radiant House Creative LLC. The business address was my house. The property owner listed for address verification was Nell Baxter. My name. My phone number appeared in the secondary contact field, and near the bottom, in a section I read so many times the words began to look strange. Applicant has provided documentation of property ownership as evidence of residential and financial stability. My property, my address, my phone number, my name, on a loan application I had never seen, never discussed, never agreed to. I sat down on the edge of the guest bed, my guest bed. Then I picked up my phone and called the lender. The woman I spoke with was professional and careful. She confirmed the application was still pending. She confirmed all the details. When I explained that I was the property owner and had not consented to any of this, there was a pause on her end. Then she said, "Mrs. Baxter, it says using a property owner's information without their knowledge to support a loan application is considered misrepresentation. I'm going to flag this file immediately. You'll want to pull your credit report and contact your attorney." I thanked her. I pulled my credit report on my laptop. 2 hard inquiries I had not made, one from the lender, one from a business banking institution I had never heard of, both within the last 4 months. I called my attorney, the same man who had helped me settle my husband's estate. He was calm and clear the way good lawyers are. He told me to freeze my credit right away, not to confront anyone in the house until I understood the full scope, and to write down everything I had found and when I found it. I froze my credit. Then I called the business bank. An account had been opened under the LLC's name using my address as the business address, the documentation used to verify it, my utility bill, which my daughter-in-law had access to because it came to the front table where mail was sorted, her mail and mine mixed together for 14 months in my house. The account was hers. But if there were ever tax issues, audit notices, or collection letters tied to that account, they would come to my address, listed under my property of record, to me. She had not taken money from my wallet, but she had taken something. She had taken my name and my house and my 30 years of careful living and put them to work for herself, without once asking if that was all right. I went to the garage and found the boxes she had moved in with. I was methodical. I was not only angry, there was something steadier underneath the anger. I packed everything from the kitchen counter, then the living room, then the desk in the guest room. I was careful. I did not throw anything. I folded things properly, the way you would pack for someone you were still trying to respect even if you could no longer trust them. Then I took a sheet of my cream stationery, the good kind with the small border, what I use for notes that matter, and I wrote. I found the loan application, I called the lender and they are reviewing the file. I pulled my credit report and found 2 inquiries I did not authorize. I have frozen my credit and spoken with my attorney. You used my name, my property, my address, and my utility records to support your business without my consent. I am not raising my voice. I am not uncertain. We will talk when you return. Nell. I sealed it. I placed it in the center of the cleared counter. Then I made tea and sat down to wait. She came home at 6:12. Her mother dropped her off, and I could hear them laughing about something in the driveway before the door opened. The laughter stopped the moment she walked in. I watched her take in the room, the empty counter, the boxes stacked neatly by the back door, the envelope. She set her shopping bag down slowly, like she was placing something fragile on a surface she was suddenly unsure of. What is this? Her voice had gone flat. Open the envelope, I said. Her mother came in behind her and saw the boxes. She crossed her arms. What on earth is going on? Ask your daughter, I said. My daughter-in-law opened the envelope. She read it without speaking. When she set it down, her face was carefully arranged. Not panicked, but controlled in a way that told me she had considered the possibility of being caught. There's a misunderstanding, she said. Which part? I used the address for the LLC. That's standard. You need a stable address for a business filing. You listed me as the property owner and financial reference on a loan application. To show the business had roots, it's not the same as using your credit. You opened a business bank account using my utility bill as proof of address. She said nothing. You put my name on things without asking me, I said, and I kept my voice very steady, not soft, but steady. There is a difference. You did not ask me if it was all right. You decided for yourself that it would be fine, and then you let me stand at my own front door and sign for packages addressed to your business at my address without telling me what I was actually letting into my home. Her mother stepped forward. She is building something. You should be proud. I would have been, I said, if she had asked me. That was where things stood when my son walked through the door. He was home a day early. His flight had changed, he told me later. He saw the boxes first, then me, then his wife. He looked between us the way children do when they know they have walked into something they were not meant to see. What's happening? He asked quietly. I got up and went to the drawer where I had put everything. The lender's letter, the credit report printout, the notes from my attorney. I placed them on the table. My son sat down and read. He was always a slow, careful reader. He got that from his father. When he looked up, he looked at his wife. You used my mother's name and address on a loan application, he said, without telling her. For the business she started, it's just. Without telling her. I was going to explain everything once it was approved. You were going to tell her you had borrowed her name and her property, he said, after you had already done it. She stood up. You're making this sound criminal. Then explain it another way, he said. Her mother gathered her things. Everyone needs to calm down. Nell, I'm being a homeowner, I said. This is my house, my name, my credit history. She used them without my permission. There is no framing of that which makes it acceptable. Her mother left. My son and his wife stayed at the kitchen table for a long time after. My daughter-in-law talked. She explained her thinking. The LLC needed a real address. Their apartment was not stable enough for financial documents. She had thought. She kept returning to this phrase. She had thought I would be fine with it. She had thought I would understand. She had thought I would never even find out. My son looked at her for a long moment. Did you do this because you thought it was okay, he said, or because you thought she wouldn't know? She did not answer. That silence was its own kind of answer. He asked her to give them a few minutes, and she went upstairs. He sat across from me with his elbows on the table. Mom, he said, I am so sorry. I'm not angry with you. I should have been paying attention. I trusted her and I let that be enough. Trusting someone you love is not a fault, I said. It's what happened after that matters. He looked up. What do you need from me? I need you to understand that things cannot go back to the way they were, I said. And I need to know that you understand why. He nodded. He did understand. That is the thing about people raised with honesty. When the truth is clear enough, they can see it even when it hurts. My daughter-in-law came back downstairs that evening with a small bag. She stayed at her mother's that night, and the next night, and the one after. On the fourth morning, there was a knock at my front door at 8 o'clock. She was standing on the porch alone. No camera bag, no event outfit. She was wearing a plain jacket and her hair was pulled back and her eyes were red at the edges. She was holding a small envelope. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside and let her pass. She sat at the kitchen table, the same spot where the envelope had waited for her, and placed her envelope between us. She did not open it for me. She just looked at her hands for a moment. I cashed out the equipment fund I'd been saving, she said. It doesn't cover all of it, but it's a start. I've already started removing your name and address from the accounts. My attorney is handling the LLC address change. She paused. I wanted to tell you that first, before anything else. I looked at the envelope but left it where it was. Why? Asked. Not why you're fixing it, why you did it. She took a slow breath. I have a friend who opened a skincare business that has 40,000 followers. Another one who launched a boutique last year that everyone talks about. And I kept feeling like I was always behind. Like I was starting from nothing and running out of time. She looked at the table. And your house felt like something solid, like if I attached the business to this address, to your name, it would look more real, more established, like something worth taking seriously. She exhaled. I know how that sounds. It sounds honest, I said. She looked up. It also doesn't change what you did. I know. You used my silence, I said, not my permission. You watched me stay quiet for over a year, and you decided that quiet meant yes. It did not. It meant I loved my son, and I was willing to put up with a great deal to keep the peace. That is not the same thing as consent. She wiped her face. You're right. Wanting more for yourself, that I understand, I said. Working hard and building something real, I would have supported you. But building it on someone else's foundation without asking, that doesn't hold. Not a business, not a marriage, not anything. She nodded slowly. She told me my son had said plainly that if she was ever dishonest with him about money again, he was done. They had already made an appointment for counseling. She was not telling me that for sympathy. She was telling me because she wanted me to know that something was actually changing. They found a small apartment across town. It was tight. The kitchen was barely big enough for 2 people to stand in, and the parking situation was a headache. But it was theirs, their address, their utility bills, their name on the door. I walked through the guest room after they left and opened the window. I brought my sewing cabinet in from the garage. I put fresh linens on the bed. I took down the hook by the front door and put a new one up, a few inches to the left of where the old one had been. I don't know exactly why, it just felt right. A few months later they came for Sunday dinner. My daughter-in-law brought a pie she had made herself. I knew because there was flour still on her sleeve. She asked before she touched anything in my kitchen. She said, "May I?" and waited for an answer. That small sentence meant more than she knew. She still makes content. She does it from her own apartment, under her own name, at her own address, with her own utility bill on file. She got a part-time position at a local marketing agency and is learning the business from the ins before she tries to run one from the outside. She told me recently that it was harder and slower than she expected. I told her that most things worth doing are. Before they left that evening, she stopped at the door. "Thank you for not pressing charges," she said quietly. I looked at her. I chose not to because I believed you understood what you had done wrong. Don't make me regret that. She nodded, and I believed her. After the door closed, I stood in my kitchen alone. The house was quiet the way it had been before they moved in. Not empty quiet, but mine quiet. My mixing bowls were back on the lower shelf. The counter was clear. The ring light was gone. I went and sat in the backyard for a while. The roses I planted the spring after my husband passed were just beginning to open. I had been meaning to put a bench out there for 4 years now. I think this will be the summer I finally do it. If you have ever stayed quiet because you were afraid of what honesty might cost you, here is what I learned. The cost of silence is always higher than you think. It does not protect the people you love. It only teaches them how far they can go. Speak up the first time. Speak up clearly. And if someone looks you in the eye and tells you that you're home all day anyway, remember exactly what that life was built by, and make sure they do too. If this story stayed with you, I'd love to know what you would have done in my place. Leave a comment, give this video a like, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because sometimes the quietest voice in the room is the one that finally says enough. And that is where everything begins to change.